What does it take as a woman to be successful in a male-dominated industry? Well, how about power generation? That's pretty male-dominated. Well, my next guest has not only done that, she's also helped many other women in the industry become successful too. Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner, and you are watching Extraordinary Women TV. My guest is Colleen Sidford. She's the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer of Ontario Power Generation, which is one of the largest power generating companies in Canada. And she's got quite a story to tell you today, and I'm really glad to have her here. Later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top success tip. You're going to hear Colleen's. Colleen Sidford, hello.
Hello, Shannon.
It's nice having you here in the studio.
Thank you.
The one thing we were talking about, of course, as we were sitting here chatting and preparing and getting mic'd, was the electricity that's around us. And that you work for a company that produces 19,000 megawatts of electricity. It's a lot of wattage.
It's about 60% of the province of Ontario.
Wow. Now, you haven't, of course, always worked for a power generation company. At one point, you had art in your heart.
When I was younger and in my early days of education, I desperately wanted to be an artist. I can remember in school, in grade school and primary school, always drawing. So I thought that was my career. And I even begged my parents to send me to a special high school. So I didn't go to the normal high school, and I went to a art school, and where the subjects were design, art, life drawing, ceramics, art history. So I loved it.
And you didn't pursue a career in the arts, so you found yourself in financial services, but...
how that came about is when I finished my training in art, I went out to try to get a job, and my love was going to be work in a gallery because art history was my thing, and I realized that there wasn't a very big money involved in that, in fact not even enough to live on. So I decided I would take a break and go and get a job where I could get some money put together and then come back to my art. So I went to work for a bank.
And that's how it started.
That's how it started. I'm not financial in my original course of career. So
you started, you worked, you moved your way up, essentially, in the banking industry.
Yeah, I started actually, in fact, I was hired because I had good handwriting. I was transcribing bank forms into a computer system, and that's how I got hired. And from there, they kept giving me different jobs, and I moved up. And so I ended up working in the banking industry, dealing with corporate clients. So many years of moving from one job to the other, and I kept getting different opportunities and taking them. So that's how it happened.
And so from there, you started your own consulting business. At some point you left, and...
I actually, one of the banks I worked for was a big American bank, and one of the things we were selling as services to our corporate clients was the opportunity to set up financial shared service centers in different locations in the world, one of them being in Belgium. And one of those companies who I was selling to was the Molson companies, and they said, well, if this is such a great idea, why don't you come and work for us and you set it up. So I thought going to Belgium was a good idea, although I didn't even know where it was. I had to go and get a map and look it up. And then I didn't even know that they spoke two different languages there. And so, but I had accepted and said, yes, let's go.
Sounds like an adventure then.
Yes.
So off to Belgium you went.
Yes.
And I know at some point in there you managed to travel the world quite extensively.
Well, one of the great opportunities of taking that job was not only to do the work that I was doing, but it involved bringing in about 65 companies around the world into this one financial shared service center, meaning that we would be taking information and cash from those countries and transferring it to the central location. Accounting and various other things, very dull in terms of what it is, but it got me to travel to all of those companies and countries to convince them that they had to be part of this program.
Well, so that must have been exciting.
So in Asia, in South America, all through Europe, North America.
And on somebody else's dime. I love it.
Yes. It meant a lot of airplane travel. I think I was a gold member of British Airways for a long time.
And so then from consulting, you found your way to where you are now. Is that right?
Yes. So what this opportunity to work with over in Europe showed me is that I had something that people wanted. So I came back to Canada in the early 90s, 94 or so, to the Molson's head office, and I had a lot of companies calling me up and saying, can you help us? Tell us how you do this, putting the companies together in a financial shared service center.
Right.
And one of the moments that made me think that there was something that could be done on a private basis was I got a call from 3M. They were all sitting in Wisconsin, and the phone call said, we have our board of directors sitting here. We would like to set up a call with you so they can ask you questions about how to go about doing this. And I thought, wow, if I'm that much in demand, maybe I can make a business out of this. And that's what I did.
Oh, that sounds really, it's really intriguing. What an interesting journey. And you didn't really set out, you didn't seem to have your mind set out initially, well, I'm going to work in banking, or I'm going to manage other people's money.
It was always just latching on to the opportunity that came along. Right. And I think that's one of the secrets is to, take that chance. So I just kept thinking of that's another opportunity. I love to travel. I love to see different things. And this kind of allowed me to do that with some of the skills I had.
And you had an open mind.
Absolutely. For anything.
Now, let's just talk a little bit about OPG. So what is your role there?
As the Chief Investment Officer, I look after all the money for the pension funds and another large fund called the nuclear funds. In our company, we have nuclear installations and nuclear power. And at some point, those stations will reach their end of life, and you have to safely decommission them. You also have to take all that waste fuel that has been produced by that plant over time and bury it somewhere so that it's away from any area people can get to it. So the nuclear funds is at the moment about $11.7 billion, and the pension funds about $9.5 billion, so about $21 billion worth of funds under management.
You manage a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. So
for somebody who has no financial training.
So it is possible.
So you can learn on the job.
So you probably manage your own personal finances very well. Then I would imagine if you're managing that kind of those kinds of portfolios.
I always say that if it doesn't have enough zeros, I can't deal with it. Balancing the checkbook is probably more of a challenge.
Are there ever nights that you can't sleep at night? You're worried? Do you ever have sleepless nights?
Especially right now.
Yeah.
The way the world is right now, it's very hard. It's a very tough job at the moment to predict what's going to happen, and there's a lot at risk. This is people's pension money, so you have to be very prudent and careful.
Now, in the time that you were at Ontario Power Generation, this was you've been traditionally working in male-dominated industries, but power is known to be very male-dominated. What was your experience like? And I know that you started a program so that you could help other women. So let's talk about that.
Well, one of the things that is not my main job, but when I first went to OPG, I realized that this was a particular problem in the company, that there were a lot of women working there. Mind you, they still only comprise 23% of the total. There's about 11,500 employees and about 2,700 women out of that. So it is very male-dominated, as you described. But I noticed that of all the women who were talented and experienced and doing a lot of the jobs you wouldn't normally think of as typical jobs that women take on, so they do work in the nuclear plants, they are skilled workers, technical, mechanical engineers, but those women were not making it to the top of the organization, and I was wondering why. And probably, I didn't do it right away, but after sort of thinking about it for a time, I thought there must be something that we can do to figure out why women are not succeeding in this organization. And that's when I started doing some research about what other companies had done. And I talked to a lot of companies, banks, energy companies, communication companies, and found out that they had all struggled with that question to some degree and had been doing different things. And out of that, I designed or conceived a program which was aimed at what we believe is holding women back. And some of the things that hold women back are the way they deal in the workplace. So the differences between, it's a generality, but women do things differently. They speak differently, they react differently in a business environment, and some of those things are not perceived by men as to be leadership qualities. So when it comes to choosing who's the next job that gets taken, if they have a qualified woman and a qualified man, they go, the safe bet is to go with the man, even though on paper they might be the same. Because it's just the woman doesn't step up and say she can do it with confidence, doesn't talk like a leader, so the use of the voice, and how they communicate, written form and in presentation form. So we decided to work on those traits for the women in OPG.
And you know, I've read some studies where women tend to speak not necessarily in circles, but not directly. It's sort of it's much more subtle. The messages are much more subtle. We're not direct with getting the point across.
Yes.
We kind of skirt around it.
And we always take away the directness of it. So we say, I think that might be a good idea. Well, if you only think it, then you don't believe in it. So the idea is we have to change our way of saying things where, I am convinced, I believe this is the best way to do something. And then you feel more. I can tell you a story about that, actually.
And you know what? I want to hear it. And how about we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll start with the story. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and that means it's my Good to Know Minute. And Colleen, I know you've got a great tip for my viewers, so jump right in there.
I think the best tip for your viewers and for all women is to be willing to take risks. Take that opportunity, get outside of your comfort zone and take it on, and then you will experience and find out how many things you really can do that you're not sure of today.
Well, thanks for that. That's good to know. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Colleen Sidford, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer with Ontario Power Generation. So stay where you are. Hello, welcome back to the show, and I'm speaking with Colleen Sidford, who is the VP and Chief Investment Officer at Ontario Power Generation, who has created a very interesting program for women to achieve success within the organization. So we're talking about that, and you have a story to share.
Well, it was about things we say and how it's perceived, and how women will sometimes say things that are heard differently by men. And one of the stories I have to tell in my own experience is I was driving with my husband, and at one point, as you know, when he's driving, I'm the navigator, and he said, why don't we visit such and such a town that's up the road? I said, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And I said, I think it's the next exit. He said, if you think, you don't know where it is, do you? And I just stopped for a minute and I said, I believe if we take the next exit, that will be where we need to go. He goes, okay, that's different then.
So you spoke in his, you communicated in his values of communication.
So it really worked, and he has no idea about all the training we've been doing in terms of using language properly, in terms of getting a clear message across. So women tend to use these weaker explanations when they're speaking. They detract from their message because they throw it out without, and then pull it back in as if it's maybe not quite right, and I wouldn't want to be caught out saying something that's, so you always couch your terms in, isn't that the way it is? You put it in the form of a question. A lot of women do that, and it makes it look like you're not sure of what you're saying. So it's just a training that we give the women at OPG who want to advance their careers. We give them all the tactics and tips to maybe do those kind of things better. And it includes 3 or 4 particular areas. One is confidence, you know, being able to stand up and say, yes, I can do it. Yes, I want to take on the next opportunity. The other thing is changing your voice in terms of how you talk, how you project your voice in a meeting, participating in a meeting, and in writing and scripting and making presentations to, you know, take your place at the table. One of the things that is how you sit in a chair. A lot of times women will be tight with their legs crossed, arms folded, whereas a man will take up space. And if you take up space, you just look like you're in control.
So do you think we're making ourselves smaller?
We're making ourselves smaller and insignificant. So those are the kind of things. And then your overall presence and your projection. So that, you know, how do you dress? Are you professional looking for what you're doing? Are you wearing appropriate wear? Because women have a lot of choice, a lot more choice than men do. But in a professional environment, whether it's my company in the shop floor or in the office, you got to look like you're in charge. And one of the things that makes a big difference is wearing a jacket. So you can wear any kind of fashionable clothing as long as it has a jacket, because the jacket makes you, from a man's point of view, they recognize it.
More authoritative. Because is not a suit really a uniform for men? It's sort of like armor, isn't it?
And lots of women don't like to wear suits.
And often they're uncomfortable. Not as practical.
But you need to have that kind of professional look, and then it's taken away. Then that's taken away, and it doesn't detract from what you're doing and saying.
Well, don't you feel different as soon as you put on a suit versus putting on a pair of jeans? I mean, there's a shift in your psyche right away.
Yes. So that's our program. It's called the OPG Empowered Women, and we've put over 500 women through it so far since 2008, when I did the original pilot.
Wow.
But and it's still going. We still open it to every single woman in the company, and we do twice a year. We run a 4-month program, 1 day a month, where they come together in a class and practice all of these things.
Was it challenging to get this off the ground, or did you have full support internally?
It's very challenging. I actually had to build a business rationale, and that's where the financial background comes in, to show them how the benefit and value added. I went to the senior executive team, the CEO, and made my pitch, and surprisingly enough, I got the go-ahead and a small budget to do it. They keep on trying to reduce the budget, but I hold on to it. So yeah, it's been very, very successful.
You know, one of the things that I've heard a lot of women say, either women I've interviewed or friends, or you know, other women who've commented in business, that women tend to drop out somehow in business. Why is that?
I don't think anyone knows the complete answer to it, but there's all kinds of theories and research done on it. And it seems to be that women get worn out in terms of waiting for their opportunity. So a little bit on their side, I think there's 2 things that happen. Women don't say that they want the next job or the next position. They tend to sit back, do a good job at what they're doing, and hope that somebody's noticing. And when the new position gets sent to somebody else, they wonder why.
And then they get upset.
They're very surprised, and they leave.
Okay.
So that seems to be one of the main things that happen in a lot of big organizations. The women who are successful have definitely said, had the confidence to reach out and say, I can do this, and I'm going to take it on, and I'm going to do a good job. And once you make that transition, it seems that it's much more acceptable. But there are very few women who do that.
Are there a lot of women in your field working in power generation?
My field is more of the finance side, so still very male-dominated, even in the head office, in the finance area. My direct report group tends to be all men. I think I'm the only woman in that group who works with the CFO. So yeah, your voice is, not heard unless you get up and make that noise.
Did you find it challenging when you first started? I mean, did you have to say, hey, hang on a second, I feel like you're not listening to me because I'm a woman?
I would say not so much for me, because I'm very forward and aggressive. But I've had a lot of the women in the company come to me after we started the Empowered Women program and say that it's been very, very helpful for them because they did feel like that. Because often in a lot of the work that we do, a woman engineer, for example, will be the only woman in the group. And they feel if you're only one woman, you have it's very risky to speak up. If there's two, it's better, but you need to have at least three. So in any organization, any board of directors, the magic number is at least three.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Because you feel that you have somebody taking your back at that point.
Yeah, you've got comrades.
Right. But if you're just by yourself, it's very difficult to get into that. Men's voices are deeper, and it's difficult when they break and a woman speaks. So even in a board of director kind of environment, I see it every day, where it's very hard for the women to break into the men's conversations.
So Colleen, if there is someone who's watching the show today and they work for a large organization, and they think, wow, what a great story, I want to do that too, and I want to get a group going or a program going for women. Do you have any advice for them?
First, and I think it's absolutely necessary, is to get a sponsor. So you need someone in the organization who's high enough to actually provide that support. Because if it's CEO, president, or somebody of at least that kind of level, and they say it's a good thing, then everybody else will think it's a good thing as well. So I definitely think you need that support.
So you need buy-in from the top.
You need buy-in. So you need that sponsor.
Got it. Yeah.
And the second thing you need is then to be able to do things, you need at least the help and time to make it happen, and that's more organizational skills. In our group, I started it in my, I'll call it free time, which wasn't much, and over time there were so many people who wanted to be part of it that we created I'll call it a little management team, and to this day that's what's happening. It's completely volunteer still today, and people do it in between their real jobs.
So what do you think is next for you?
Retirement.
Oh, good. Good for you.
That's my next plan, to go back to my art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to pursue things that are non-financial. I have plans of working in a gallery as a docent, taking photography lessons, just spending time doing that kind of thing. Travel.
Love it. And full support of your husband to do that then, and
Absolutely.
He's coming with you.
Absolutely. He's already retired. He's waiting.
Well, Colleen, I've really enjoyed this time with you and finding out more about your career and your journey and how you are helping other women in Canada, and in particular your organization. And you're quite a role model. So thank you for coming here and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, actually, and also, I have to say that if they want more information, if our viewers want more information, they can find out more about OPG at the URL is opg.com.
Yes.
Okay, great, good. Got that one right. For more information about upcoming shows or to contact me, you can visit the website at extraordinarywomentv.com. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, and there's lots of places that you can find me on the net. If you've enjoyed this story and you are interested in transforming your life, well, I hope these stories have inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. We'll see you soon.